Good afternoon, good morning to some of you, maybe. Thank you for joining us today. We have a great session prepared for you where we will be discussing AI-native FP&A for NetSuite. I'm John Savick, and I'm joined by my good friend here, Brent Hoskins from Actor. Why don't we go ahead and kick things off with a quick round of intros? Brent, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, John. My name is Brent Hoskins. I'm the EPM lead at Actor. I've been active in the EPM space already for 10 plus years. And as a true tooling enthusiast, I'm really happy here to present today together with John. Yeah, over to you, John.
Perfect. And just a little bit about myself. My name is John Sabick. I'm a partner account manager here at Abacum. Like Brent, I have a decade's worth of experience in CPM, or also commonly referred to as corporate performance management. By trade, I'm a CPA, so I'm very familiar with budgeting, forecast, reporting, consolidations, aggregations, and all the pains and headaches that coincide with that. So we do have a couple slides that we want to share with you. Just bear with us one sec. We'll go ahead and pull them up. Before we actually dive into the demo, as mentioned, I want to share a couple slides. We have our agenda. That's going to take us really into the next 30 or 40 minutes or so. Brent's going to go ahead and kick things off with a quick introduction to Actor and CPM. As mentioned, CPM stands for Corporate Performance Management, also commonly referred to from time to time as Enterprise Performance Management. Following that, I'll talk about AI and how it's helping streamline some core FP&A processes. We'll talk about some social proof points as well and why customers absolutely love Abacum. I'll spend a little bit of time talking about the integration capability, which is native into NetSuite. Following that, we'll dive into a live demonstration, and then we'll go ahead and save some time at the end for some questions. In terms of outcomes, we want to give you an idea of how Abacum can drive efficiencies within, once again, your core FP&A processes. So think of things like budgeting, forecasting, and reporting. We want to highlight our AI functionality, which is best in class and really has set the bar for corporate performance management tools. And then we also want to go ahead and show you how you could get more out of your NetSuite data. So before Brent kicks things off, we do have two polling questions that we want to go ahead and share with you. All right, here's the first one. How familiar are you with CPM EPM? Brent, what do you think is going to be the top answer here?
I hope familiar, but yeah, looking to what we see today at our medium-sized customers, a lot of them are still working in Excel.
Yeah, I think that's very that's an accurate statement. What we find a lot of organizations, whether they're big or small, tend to leverage Excel to its limits these days. And we'll give it a couple more seconds here, and we should see the results. All right, looks like everybody on today's call is familiar with it. We have one more polling question as well. And that polling question should be popping up here. All right, maybe the second one's not popping up here. But why don't we go ahead and switch slides here? Maybe Brent, you could talk about the introduction into Actor and CPM.
Yeah, no problem. So Actor is the EPM or CPM, what's in the name, Excellence Center of the Kronos Group. The Kronos Group is the largest IT company within Belgium with over 9,000 FTEs. It's actually an ecosystem that brings together many specialized companies with each a dedicated focus area. With Actor, we have more than 10 years experience within EPM, both focused on tooling, but also on the EPM processes. We have a really close collaboration with the NAPCO, which is the established NetSuite partner of the Kronos Group. In the end, we share the same floor in the office and also the same management. We both believe, from a NAPCO and Actor point of view, that the combination of Abacum and NetSuite is really strong for the customers that we see. We are an agnostic EPM center of excellence, meaning that we focus on multiple tools and we try to focus on the tools that deliver best value for our customers. In my 10 plus years within the EPM space, I've seen things change. I've seen things moving. Today, we are actually at what we call the third generation of planning tools. And what for me, third generation means is, of course, it's a SaaS solution, meaning software as a service, but it's natively built based on AI. So AI is embedded from the ground up. That AI is not only beneficial for our customers, but also for us as an implementation partner, meaning that you have functionalities like an AI formula assistant to build models, but also to detect data anomalies, etc., etc. I think, John, you will comment on more AI functionalities that are available within in Abacum later in this presentation. What I would like to do is talk about FP&A of yesterday, because if you would have asked me 10 years ago how the FP&A landscape at medium-sized companies would look, I would for sure say that it wasn't an Excel exercise with PowerPoint with a complex, let's say, reconciliation. Unfortunately, this is still the reality that we face today. But I sincerely believe and hope that with this new wave of toolings, that we can move forward, create more connected planning, more automated and intelligent planning at our customers. And yeah, let's see in the coming 30 to 35 minutes how Abacum can streamline your FP&A process of tomorrow. So yeah, John, over to you to explain this.
Yeah, perfect. That actually paints a perfect visual, Brent, of, the pains and challenges that a lot of organizations experience when they're doing all of their planning, reporting, and forecasting in the Excel environment, right? They tend to pull in, extract large data sets, drop them into those Excel files. They almost treat Excel as a database. But there is a limitation to that. So Excel is a great tool, but there is a better, more efficient way to actually streamline core FP&A processes. And that's really where Abacum comes into play. Typically, how things start off is really with discussions around your source systems. So we would talk about NetSuite and how that's being utilized. But in addition to that, what's nice is that Abacum's system agnostics, meaning that we can actually go ahead and pull in information from your operational systems, like your HR system, your payroll system, your CRM system, and bring all that information into a model within Abacum. The model essentially contains your calculations, your business logic, your hierarchies, your roll-ups. And once we set that up, we set up the direct integration into your source systems. We schedule the cadence of the refresh. We bring in all that data where now it's centralized within one location. And then from there on out, it's totally up to your users in terms of how they want to go ahead and utilize it. So they could use it for planning, forecasting, scenario modeling, along with reporting and dashboarding as well. In addition to that, you can actually go ahead and drive collaboration in the form of tasks or workflows around core processes. And better yet, you can actually take advantage of the AI features that are core to Abacum's DNA as well, which we're going to talk about. All right. And so in terms of AI, we really have several features that customers use on a daily basis. AI summaries has the ability to go ahead and take a look at the underpinning data and generate commentary. So very similar to the way people are using ChatGPT these days. You can actually have Abacum provide descriptions and commentaries on data sets and variances. AI forecasting actually provides the ability to go ahead and take a look at historical data and trends and provide you with a forward-looking forecast. A lot of our customers actually go ahead and utilize it to stress test, manual assumptions that are provided from their budget or forecast owners. Our AI classifier is really cool in the sense that it can actually go ahead and help with transforming your data. So rather than having to go ahead and have a separate transformation layer within Abacum, you can actually go ahead and leverage the AI classifier. So if your ERP places, let's say, the vendor in the notes or description column, maybe you want to analyze that data, but you have Starbucks that's spelled 10 different ways. You can actually leverage the AI classifier to go ahead, identify the vendor, place it into its own dimension, and then you could go ahead and utilize it from an analytical standpoint. Anomaly detection, also pretty cool. It allows you to go ahead and identify anomalies within your data sets. So it'll actually go ahead and flag transactions that are outliers for users to go in and review them. So if they're legitimate, they could go ahead and approve it. If they need to go ahead and further investigate the nature of that transaction, they can absolutely do so. Goal seeks really neat as well. It finds the input value needed to achieve a specific result. And then our AI sensitivity matrix understands the financial impact of different inputs and assumptions as well. All right, next slide. Yeah, in terms of the role of AI and automation in finance, it's no secret today that finance teams and CFOs have been really tasked with doing more with less. And they're looked at as the trusted advisor to the business, right? So in what that translates to is a lot of times the business will come to them with a lot of questions where they want them to analyze the data. The challenge is that not only has the volume of questions increased, but also the amount of data. So organizations are dealing with a lot more data than they did in the past. And that's really where, AI comes into play to help sort of reduce the time it takes with some of those manual tasks. AI has the ability to go ahead and analyze data in a much quicker manner. It has the ability to cleanse data, and then you can actually leverage it to go ahead and provide the forward-looking assumptions, which is the case with our AI forecasting abilities. So really, what it boils down to is helping finance teams streamline and improve efficiencies over some of their core processes. In terms of some pretty good proof points and why users absolutely love Abacum, I'm not going to cover all of them here, but from a streamlining standpoint, what we tend to find is a lot of people are able to go ahead and reduce their budget cycle times. So we have customers where, it takes them 3 or 4 months to go ahead and produce their annual plan. When they go ahead and leverage the planning functionality within Abacum, they can actually go ahead and reduce it, in some cases by 50 to 75% of that time, which then allows them to become more strategic, where they can actually go ahead and not only put together the initial plan, but play around with different assumptions and model out different scenarios. In terms of driving adoption, also, what we find is that when you wrap a workflow and you have a tool that's built and designed for collaboration, you could drive accountability down to different individuals within the organization. So instead of having to go ahead and create templates and fire them off through email, users log into Abacum, they're presented with their input templates, they provide their inputs, their comments, and then they could fire that off to their approvers. On the reporting side, all the reporting within Abacum becomes dynamic. So rather than having to go ahead and extract data sets out of your core systems, drop them into, Excel to format them, what we do is we set the templates up, the reports one time, and by connecting directly into the source systems, we set up that cadence of the refresh. And by doing so, all of the reports will update automatically. So you're really taking a look at the most up-to-date and relevant information. Some customers run a refresh overnight, others run it a couple times throughout the day. You can even run it on demand as well. And then in terms of single source of truth, this is really a paradigm shift for a lot of organizations. What's nice is that you can rest assured that anybody that logs into Abacum is looking at the exact same information at the end of the day. So if you go ahead and look at a P&L statement and somebody else within the organization is looking at that report, the numbers always tie out. Okay. In terms of our customers, we have customers across all different verticals, all different industries. We have some that are B2B, B2C. Abacum as a product's really geared towards the mid-market, and how we define that, it's usually organizations that have, headcount from a few hundred people all the way up to a couple thousand. Our largest customer has 15,000 employees. But as you could see, they're in all different types of industries, from tech to manufacturing to non-for-profit. At the end of the day, every single organization out there needs to plan, they need to report, they want to analyze their data, and therefore there's no limitation in terms of the type of vertical or sector that you may operate in. The one thing that I really want to spike out here and hammer home is the fact that this is something that's very different than other vendors in the CPM market, and it's our integration capability. So we've set up native integrations into some of the core ERP systems that are geared towards the mid-market, and NetSuite is one of those. In terms of what we have the ability to pull in is the transactions, the saved searches, along with the scheduled reports as well. So we've actually productized the integration capability. Other vendors out there will actually take in upwards of 40 hours of time and materials to actually go ahead and set up the integration, where in our case, it's a matter of minutes. I was talking with one of our consultants, and the quickest that they've actually set up a NetSuite integration was under an hour, which was rather impressive. And here's just a couple of steps in terms of what that integration looks like. Very first thing that we want to go ahead and do is obtain your organization's token. Step two is to go ahead and install the Abacum bundle in NetSuite. Step three is to create and assign the API tokens. And step four is to set the permissions and enable data sync. Another key difference is that we don't require any help from the IT department. Typically, we'll actually go ahead and work with the NetSuite administrator to provide us access to the respective tables. And just to reiterate a couple things, like at the end of the day, the main goal of Abacum is to drive efficiencies within the office of the CFO. And that really begins with the seamless integrations into NetSuite along with any of your other core systems. So once again, think of your HR system, payroll system, CRM system, and bringing that information into a centralized location. What's nice about Abacum at the end of the day is that we have this intuitive UX and UI. So from the end user standpoint, everything is point, click, drag, drop. There's no coding. And that really fosters an environment where, individuals within the organizations tend to collaborate. And it's good from an organizational standpoint where you can actually drive accountability down to key stakeholders as well. And then from the solution standpoint, it is a product that is scalable. So in the event that you may acquire a new entity, new company, maybe your business changes 5 years from now, it's not a solution that you're going to have to go ahead and get rid of. The nice part is that you can easily add in those new entities. If your business changes, you can go ahead and create a total new model to accommodate the new business. And in terms of, dimensionality, Abacum can actually accommodate any type of dimension. There's no limit to dimension. So if you want to go ahead and report and analyze data by region, territory, customer, product, service, you could absolutely go ahead and set up those dimensions within Abacum. And then just a little bit about, Brent did a good picture painted a good picture with respect to where Abacum sits in the market. It really is that third gen tool where AI has been core to its DNA. When we're talking to individuals, typically we're talking to finance folks and people that sit within the accounting department as well. But just due to the intuitiveness of the product, lends itself well to actually expanding outside the finance and accounting team. So a lot of cases, our customers bring in people on the sales side, on the business side, the HR side, and controllers are often users of the solution as well. In terms of use cases, I mentioned before, Abacum is a modeling solution. So we have customers that leverage it in a number of different ways. Some use it for revenue planning, some for headcount planning, some for budgeting and forecasting, for modeling scenarios, playing around with best case, base case, worst case. And then on the reporting side, so we can surface all of your information that resides within a model in financial statements. So think of balance sheet, P&L, cash flow, along with any of your variance type of reports. And then you can actually go ahead and create investor reporting packages as well. All right. I think, Brent, you're going to go ahead and kick over the controls to myself. And what we're going to go ahead and do now is basically give you a live look into Abacum. Brent, could you let me know if you see the demo environment?
Yeah, I can see it.
Awesome. So my main goal really for the next 10 to 15 minutes is really just to give you a day in the life of an Abacum user. What you're probably well aware of is that Abacum is a web-based solution. So in terms of gaining access as a user, you could utilize any of your favorite web browsers. So Chrome, Firefox, Internet Explorer, Safari, all pretty common ones. From a login standpoint, we do support single sign-on, which allows users to pass through their login credentials Alternatively, they can actually gain access utilizing a username and password as well. Now, given that Abacum is a web-based tool, you can actually go ahead and pull up Abacum on any device. So if you want to look at it on your smartphone, your tablet, your laptop, as long as you have that internet connection, you can actually gain access into the tool. Now, when a user logs in, essentially what they're presented with is their own landing page. We commonly refer to them as spaces, but the best way to describe a space is at the end of the day, it's a blank canvas. So you could create a dashboard space, you could create a reporting space, you could create a budget input template space, or you could create a combination of that. Here's just an example of one that I've put together. And what's really neat at the end of the day is that we have the ability to pull in not only financial data, but that operational data as well to give you a really holistic view of what's going on organizationally. So you could see that we can create, KPIs to keep a good pulse on certain metrics. And then we can actually display data within various types of visuals as well. Within our dashboards, you can include what we call call out sections. So you can actually include narratives as well. Maybe this is where you want to go ahead and provide some updates in terms of how you're tracking or trending. But in addition to that, in terms of the AI functionality, what's pretty cool is that if you click on the little pencil icon and click quick summary, this is where the AI narrative feature comes into play. And I'll actually go ahead and provide a brief description as to what's going on with respect to that data set. So much similar to the way people use ChatGPT to start their emails these days, this is a great way to actually start providing some context with respect to data sets. And you can make this longer, you can make it shorter, you can actually go in and edit it as well. So once again, it's a really good starting point. And then if you want to go ahead and you like what it's created, you can actually post the summary to that dashboard. In addition to that, we have our AI agent. So if I click on the little Abacum icon at the bottom here, this is where you could actually come in and ask Abacum questions. So, maybe we want to know what is EBIT, for example. We could go ahead, ask the question, and our AI agent's going to go ahead and provide us with an explanation. Maybe you want to go ahead and harness, insights from any of your models. You could ask, the agent what revenue is, and it'll actually go ahead and provide you the answer to that. So Spaces is also a great way to drive collaboration and accountability, as mentioned. You can actually go ahead and assign tasks to individuals. Here's an example of one where it's asking me to go ahead and update my commentary. So I could come in, provide, some context just by typing in once again, once finished, it could be approved by whoever is responsible for approving. In addition to that, you can include comments within cells as well. So you can actually have, comments placed within a cell, asking somebody to review, maybe to provide their input. But it's again a great way to drive collaboration and accountability across the entire organization. Now, from an analysis standpoint, what's really powerful is that let's say you're taking a look at your financial statement here. What's really neat is that you have the ability to drill down within Abacum. Let's say you're taking a look at revenue. Maybe you want to have it broken out by your different countries. From countries, you want to go down to a product level. From the product level, you want to go down to a region. And then from a region, you can actually go all the way down to the customer level. This is super powerful, and this is something that I really think sets Abacum apart from other solutions that are on the market. And as you can see, we're actually incorporating various dimensions here. So here we have a region dimension, an entity dimension, a customer dimension, but you have the ability to go down to that most granular level. In addition to that, if you're taking a look at, your variance, whether you're favorable or unfavorable, what's really powerful as well is if you ever want to surface the underlying transactions, you can actually right click, select open transaction details, and Abacum will actually go ahead and pull up all the individual transactions that make up that particular balance. So you'll notice that we're pulling it in from our US GL account. So this would be our US instance in NetSuite. And then with respect to the columns, those are the fields that we work with our customers to identify what they want to bring in. But at the end of the day, really what we're trying to do is provide, users within Abacum that guided approach to being able to analyze their own data. They log in, They have their own dashboard set up, tracking specific data points or metrics that are relevant to them. And as you can see, they could go ahead and analyze their data on their own. Now, a couple other things to highlight here with respect to the charts and graphs. If we go into Open Table Builder, this is a very nice feature that I like that once again really sets Abacum apart from other solutions, is you have the ability to go ahead and do ad hoc type of reporting. If we go up to this little gear, you can take a look at sort of how we created this table, in which case we have our month to date, quarter to date, year to date data. In terms of versions, we're taking a look at actuals versus our forecast. We have our variance version. And then if we go into the variables section here, this is where you have the ability to display and select what you want within your rows and columns. I've selected my complete P&L, but let's say we just want to focus on revenue. I could select the revenue account. And then maybe we want to go ahead and change up this view where we have, regions within the columns. I could simply go ahead, drag, drop that, and Abacum will go ahead and create that new view for us here. So super easy, super intuitive. What's nice, I keep mentioning this, is we're click, not code. So everything that you do within the UI is just navigating, utilizing your mouse. And once again, this table is fully interactive, so you can actually go ahead and drill down into the dimensionality. All right. Switching gears a little bit, let's talk a little bit about the planning side of things. A number of our customers leverage Abacum to produce their annual budget. And the nice part being is that they no longer have to go ahead and create a separate tab or spreadsheet and send it out via email to all their budget owners or key stakeholders. Basically, the way it works within Abacum is that users would log into Abacum. They would have a input template that has been assigned to them, in which case now they could come in and actually update their values. Now we can accommodate any type of approach. So some organizations like to take a bottoms up where they send out a blank template. Others decide to go ahead and pre-populate it. So this could be with the budget from the previous year. It could be the latest forecast scenario, or it could be a combination of both. But from an input standpoint, extremely easy. Users could come in, enter in values directly into the cells. They could even leave comments as well. But once again, it's a great way to drive collaboration across the entire organization, leveraging a unified template. And also, what the owner of the budget process loves is the fact that he doesn't have to worry about somebody coming in and changing up the calculations or entering in an error. So that's a great way to streamline that aspect as well. And since the data now resides within Abacum, they can easily go ahead and compare and contrast different scenarios as well. So this is once again the customer success team. Here are the accounts that I'm required to provide some expense information. Let's say I have headcount that I'm also responsible for. We can actually go ahead and create a separate headcount model to allow you to do headcount planning as well. And here's an example of, once again, a schedule that I've created. This one's in a little bit more detail. It's totally up to you in terms of the information that you want to provide your budget owners. As you saw, you could have a very simple input template. If you want to provide them additional details, you might have a schedule set up similar to the one that I have here. So you could have them, take a look at how they did last year from a forecast to budget standpoint. You could provide them some instructions in terms of how to go ahead and fill in their template. You can include tutorial videos, which they can watch. And then you get into the input schedule as well. So this is where they could come in, they can add new individuals, they could remove people. But really the context here is that we pull in the information from your payroll system or your HR system into a central model. This is now where you could come in, you can add people, you can remove people, you can update any of their payroll related details. Keep in mind, this all could be part of the workflow process, in which case, once you've added, the required headcount, it could be submitted to somebody to go in and approve it. But at the end of the day, once again, rather than having data reside in separate spreadsheets across the entire organization, now everything's centralized within Abacum here. And then the best part from the budget owner standpoint is that everything aggregates. So in this case, you have, three different departments or three different teams that provide you with inputs. Everything can then aggregate up to the total parent level at the end of the day. And this is where, the budget owner could come in and now take a look at the values that his three different teams have provided and, take a look at the nature of the expenses as well. So in addition to utilizing Abacum for annual budgets, a lot of our customers actually leverage it for forecasting purposes as well. And when we think of a forecast, essentially all it is another version where what we're doing is combining actuals, which are being fed in from NetSuite, with our remaining budget or forecast details. So this is where, once again, you could come in, you could push this all the way down to the budget owner level. So let's say you want your head of marketing or your person from the marketing department to go ahead and update it. Once again, they could come into their input template here, provide an update, provide commentary, and then they could go ahead and submit this back to the approver as well. All right. And then once again, all that information can be surfaced and analyzed. When it comes to, revenue planning, we see this done a number of different ways across different organizations, depending upon the nature of the industry. For SaaS-based companies that have a top-down target approach, that's usually set by the board team. They'll come in, enter in what they expect that target to be. From there on, it's on the operations side to determine how they want to go ahead and split that out. But all those details now reside within Abacum. For manufacturers, what we typically do is set up, revenue models that are factoring in the product volume, along with the average selling price. For non-for-profit organizations that are receiving grants, we factor in grant information. For SaaS-based companies, we take into consideration number of bookings as well, along with average or annual contract value as well. So once again, really at the end of the day, there's a ton of flexibility to leverage Abacum, however, best suits your organization. What we really like is the fact that we don't shoehorn in anybody into doing things one way. And as you can see, it really then provides a holistic view across the entire organization, where anybody could come in, take a look at their data via the web. Brent, anything to add? I know we don't have too much time here.
No, nothing to add. Maybe I have a few questions which might be interesting for, let's say, the attendees of this webinar, but I'm not sure whether you still want to finish part of the demo or we can go to a more Q&A.
Yeah, why don't we go ahead and go to Q&A. If anybody's on this call that wants to take a look at Abacum in greater detail, obviously we could go ahead and slow down the presentation, do a bit more of a deep dive. But yeah, if there's any questions, why don't we go ahead and address those?
I think one question that can be really interesting for the attendees of this webinar is how long does a typical implementation take? Yeah, I know it will be a ballpark figure depending on the number of use cases and the complexity, but what do you see today at Abacum on average?
Yeah, I'd say that's really one of the core differentiators between Abacum and other solutions, really the time to value. We like to talk in terms of days, not months. A typical Abacum project is probably around 25 to 30 days, which we actually go ahead and spread over the course of, say, 6 to 8 weeks. Having those native integration really reduces the amount of time that's spent on the integration component. Whereas mentioned before, a lot of vendors will go ahead and allocate about 40 hours, which is 1 week of effort to just setting up the integration.
Okay, maybe another interesting question because the time to value that's really fast, I think, compared to other tools. But another interesting question, I think I mentioned it in the beginning, you mentioned it as well, is the low adoption barrier. It's a business-owned solution. We try to limit the role of IT as much as possible, but maybe a question, do I need to be a good Excel user to be good in Abacum or to use Abacum?
No, yeah, that's a great question, actually. And the answer to that is absolutely not, both from the end user standpoint and on the administrator standpoint. Today, we really covered, how an end user would actually leverage or utilize Abacum. And as you saw, like everything that you do from a navigation standpoint is all point, click, drag, drop. Like if you're going to go ahead and create a table or you want to do ad hoc reporting, you go over to the little cog, you select what you want within the rows, the columns, And then Abacum goes ahead and sets up that view for you. It's very different than, creating views within Excel or Power BI, in which case you need to be technical. You need to know how to set up the logic. So really, it's been a tool that's been designed by finance for finance, and really that's why we have such quick high user adoption.
Okay, that's, I think, an important one. Another important one, and I think it's the biggest issue that I see nowadays in other toolings is the dimensionality, meaning the number of dimensions that you can have. You told, I think, at one slide that it's limitless in Abacum, because what I saw in the demo is that you can plan your revenue at customer level. You can probably plan your IT cost at vendor level, etc., etc. So that means that there is no limitation today in Abacum's dimensionality.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So, like, we're one of the rare solutions that provides unlimited dimensionality. What we typically say is like, let's take a look at what makes best practice. Obviously, from a reporting analytical standpoint, it probably doesn't make sense to have 100 dimensions in a model. You can absolutely, given the fact that we provide that capability. But I'd say the typical customer probably has anywhere from 6 to 10 dimensions that they leverage. But if you need more, that's totally doable. And then, from a scalability standpoint, I mentioned it as well. It's a solution that allows you to grow. And this also talks to the time to value piece that that question earlier, Brent. Um, you know, we can have reporting out of the gate within, a week, right? So if you want to go ahead and leverage a tool for reporting and think of this for, creating your financial package for your P&L balance sheet cash flow, that is something that, out of the gate within a week could be implemented and be ready to use. And then if you want to go ahead and, roll out budgeting and forecasting, that always could be a second step or a phase two of the project.
Okay, no, I sounds great because that's what I see today in other toolings. What is a limiting factor? Is the dimensionality throughout the model. Um, I don't have any further question at this stage. What for me is important that people take away is that okay, Abacum it's a new tool. It's natively built on AI. There is a native integration with NetSuite, but also with other ERP systems. And there's a really short time to value. So that's for me important because these are, let's say, key points to take decision to move forward to a new solution in a really short period of time. So that's for me the takeaways that I want to mention for me at the end of this webinar.
That's perfect. And Brett, I think we actually I can get the last polling question to work now. That wasn't working before. So let me try one thing real quick. And then maybe, Brent, can you share the last slide with respect to our contact information? I believe we have it in the deck, so that way people can get a hold of us if they want to.
Yeah, I will.
So do you current use a CPM platform in your finance operations? This is also an interesting question that I see that there's usually an even split between no and some that are familiar. However, the tool that they're using doesn't meet their current business requirements just due to limited feature and functionality. So, all right, we're going to give it a couple seconds and we should be able to display the results. Oh, there we go. There's the even split. All right. So, on behalf of Brent and myself, I do want to thank everybody for joining today's session. Hopefully, you found it informative. Once again, if you want to take a look at things in greater detail or at a little slower pace, do not hesitate to reach out to Brent or myself. As you can see, there's our contact information. Mine's john.sabek@abacum.io, and Brent is Brent Hoskins at Chronos BE. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot and hope to see you soon.
Thanks.
Bye bye.
Bye.